Does the roses deserve its flowers? Let's break it down. Right now. A tender box of competition and resentments underneath the facade of a picture-perfect couple is ignited when the husband's professional dreams come crashing down. The Roses is directed by Jay Roach, who most notably directed films like Mystery Alaska, Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, all the Austin Powers films, Trumbo, and also Bombshell. The Roses is based on the 1981 novel The War of the Roses by Warren Adler and the 1989 film of the same title. So from a technical aspect, I thought the direction for The Roses was good. The pacing was really good. The initial setup of the story and the relationship between Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch was very smooth and pleasing, and it felt like a good start to what would hopefully be a satisfying film. There were moments with the pacing where I thought they weren't taking the storyline serious enough and would just move on, but in the very next scene, or even sometimes within the next few lines, they would address it. So, really good. However, with the tone, I thought that left a little to be desired and affected the overall vision. And what I mean is, to me, anytime it seemed like the film was trying to touch on a poignant theme or message, a character would tell a joke or make a sarcastic remark. And I get that's partially what they were going for. A few of the themes are clearly about resentment and facade versus reality. So in that way, the tone was good, being that it illustrated the character's pathway to bitterness. But I guess the issue for me was that it didn't stay in those confrontational moments long enough for us to truly get a sense of the character's pain or struggle. And again, I get the why, but we, the audience, we need, or better yet, it helps us engage and grasp the seriousness of the character's dilemma when the scene settles into the tension. And to my way of thinking, utilizing something as simple as a couple well-planned runners could have made a big difference. And I've seen some reviews that would go the other way and say some scenes went on and on, which I agree. The dinner scene with friends or the divorce scene, yeah, those overstayed their welcome. But there's a big difference between a scene being too long and a moment not being long enough. Also, I should say I didn't know this was a dark comedy until after I saw it. And in retrospect, some of the humor and the third act of the film would have hit a little different had I come into the theater with that prior knowledge. Still though, while I like the premise and found it humorous, I don't feel some of the emotional beats landed well. 2 of 5 for direction and vision. If you've seen some of my other reviews, you already know I truly adore classic film composition, and The Roses definitely has just that. This film looks amazing, very beautiful. While I may not have liked the director's tone, the framing and the composition still illustrated them brilliantly. It was never too overstated, it was never too understated. Perfect for this story. I loved the lighting and color palette too. Definitely conveyed the mood or enhanced the tension and emotion in a given scene. The locations were all gorgeous as well. Whether it was the character's restaurant or their amazing house or the outstanding California exteriors, it all worked and it was all pleasing to the eye, and most importantly, it told the story that they were trying to tell. If I did have one criticism, it would go to visuals and more specifically wardrobe. I am a California kid, so it's not that the wardrobe wasn't fairly accurate for this type of couple or setting. It was, and it actually wasn't bad costume design, but still, this is a visual medium and when you put it up against the backdrop and the lighting and the color, the wardrobe was a little flat and maybe too realistic. 4 or 5 for cinematography and visuals. So I thought the writing was pretty decent, actually. I found the humor funny, and I thought the dialogue was lively and pretty punchy and sharp. I didn't necessarily always like what a character had to say, particularly in regards to some of the themes. I actually found it sort of morose and disheartening, which is kind of confusing because one of the film's themes is unspoken grievances, which the characters display through small doses of subtext. And while it was kind of hostile at times, they would actually deal with it in the next few moments and in a fairly healthy way. Like, they actually communicated a lot and were both very supportive of each other, even through some challenging scenarios. Then in the third act, there's all this exposition of their feelings, although we never see any of it depicted. Like, at one point, she tells Benedict's character he's a bottomless pit of need, but we never really see that illustrated. Or there's a part where he tells her he needs someone to hold him, more or less. But besides being kind of a baby and a bad drunk and a little cocky, she was actually very supportive of him and pretty affectionate. It just felt like it got way more contentious than it needed to be. In the end, the kids handled it better than they did. That being said, I did like some of the storytelling. The meet cute is cute, very brief and well done, so we can get the gist and move on with the plot and story. There's also a good setup of their relationship early in the film, and we see examples of their personalities and morbid humor, like Olivia Colman's character risking hyperglycemia so she can taste her pastry, which sounds bad, but it was pretty funny. All in all, I thought the film started well and had a good thing going, but leaned into the jokes too much and at inopportune times. The ridiculous, unbelievable lengths that they go to sabotage each other are supposed to be funny, and sometimes they are, but what I think the audience needed and what we wanted was realness, confronting life, and maybe having accountability in regards to why your life or relationships aren't as solid or fulfilling as we'd like. 2 of 5 for writing and storytelling. Before we get to the last 2 categories, please think about subscribing if you're enjoying this video. You don't even have to leave. Just hit the icon. I think it's down there, or it could be over here. Either way, hit that icon and you're good to go. Thank you. Back to the review. The Roses stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Theo Rose and Olivia Colman as Ivy Rose, which is a dope name, by the way. If I had to pick my top performer, I would give it to Olivia, but if someone said Benedict, I wouldn't argue. But they work together really well and have a good on-screen chemistry. Benedict is funny and better at being kind of loose and silly than I thought. Yes, I know he played Doctor Strange, which is kind of a funny character, but I think sometimes it's harder to play a real person and be humorous than a character who is already kind of a cartoon. Olivia Colman is such a good actor. She is also very funny, but I think Olivia Colman is so charming in this film and actually has a real on-screen magnetism that I hadn't really noticed until this. The Roses also features Andy Samberg and Kate McKinnon. I liked Andy's performance. Besides his role on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Andy Samberg has always been an acquired taste that you can only take in small spurts. And in this film, he is still funny, but not in an obnoxious way. He's a lot more mature with his delivery, and his character even seems somewhat grounded. I don't know, or maybe it's just the beard. Kate McKinnon, on the other hand, dial it back a little. I think Kate, the performer, is very funny, but At this point, she is basically just weird Barbie in every role she plays. Her character was just too over the top and not particularly funny. At this stage, even if Kate McKinnon were to get a serious role, I'm not sure I could even believe her. I also wanted to give a quick mention to Delaney Quinn, who played young Hattie Rose, and Ollie Robinson, who played young Roy Rose. Both of these young actors did really well, and while they didn't steal the show, I for sure noticed their solid performance, so well done. Now, if I were just going on Olivia, Benedict, and the kids' performances, I would give this section a 5. But the rest of the supporting characters were so inconsequential to the film, besides being a recognizable face, maybe. And if you couple that with Kate McKinnon's same old performance, I would give it a 2. So we'll split the difference and average it out to a 3.5 for performances and characters. So like I said earlier, I haven't read the novel or seen the 1989 film, which might have been helpful with my expectations coming in. But overall, I enjoyed The Roses. I liked the production. I liked the performances. I appreciated the themes. But I didn't love the messaging. The Roses isn't as dark as some dark comedies, which I appreciated. And it is funny, which was a relief. I won't spoil the ending, but I was very unsatisfied and a little disappointed, even though I totally saw what they were setting up like 10 minutes before it happened. Anyway, I thought the film had so much potential to go deeper, but for me, it just never got real enough to resonate. Films like The Truman Show, Jojo Rabbit, Crooklyn, Lost in Translation, Soul Food, or Little Miss Sunshine are all really good examples of comedies that are on the more serious side but strike a good balance of humor and depth. I was hoping The Roses would fit into that echelon of films, but sadly for me, it fell short to a 5 for overall execution and impact. All in all, that gives The Roses a score of 13.5, which puts it right in the heart of matinee material. Don't forget to check out my movie phone videos and get a fun, different take on movie reviews, new and old. Did you see The Roses? What ranking would you give it? Let me hear it in the comments. If you'd like to see more of my Earnest and movie phone reviews, please subscribe for much more. Thank you for watching.